Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Yes, indeed, we'll be talking about economy, different perspectives, different angles to it. As you've seen, Mr. Braimah joins us this morning virtually. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. Good to see you.
Thank you, Chamberlain. How are you today?
Well, when there's life, there's hope.
You know, thank you. There will always be life. There will always be life.
Oh, yes, indeed. But let me go on, and I mean, this is all over the place almost. This GDP narrative, several stats, figures being pushed out there. How do you even internalize this GDP data published recently?
Well, it's a sign that Nigeria is growing, the economy is growing. I mean, that's third quarter from the NBS. And I just think, you know, the president of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu initiated some very bold reforms for macroeconomic stability since last year. And we're talking about the fuel subsidy removal, talking about harmonization of the foreign exchange, the CBN tightening monetary policy to rein in inflation. These are significant reforms, no doubt. And the expectation is that they will help the economy to grow. You know, but that's on the one side. But the other side, the impact on Nigerians in terms of how they're coping with these reforms, how they're surviving. And of course, a lot of businesses, the impact on them, multinationals. I can tell you for free that when I looked at the 9 month reports of 2 major multinationals, you know, this year, it was not good at all. One of them, 150 billion naira loss in 9 months. A major multinational that's been here for over 7-8 years. And then the other one is, in fact, over 200 billion naira loss. The impact of the devaluation of the currency, mainly high input costs. So when we look at all of these issues, there are challenges. And we just have to survive, as you rightly said. When there's hope, there's life.
So for you, much as governments, yes, they're thumping their chest about all of this, even though they say there's more work needs to be done. How would you suggest or advise they relate with these kind of data?
Data are good, but historically we're not very good with producing data and managing data in this country. How many Nigerians do we have today? What's the population of this country? We don't know. Till tomorrow, NNPC has not told us the numbers in terms of fuel consumption daily in Nigeria. We don't have those figures. So data management has been a big issue. But I think if this GDP growth is the number just released yesterday, if you're anything to go by, it shows that we're making some progress. I mean, that's the only way we can report it and explain, you know, what happened yesterday. But the question that Nigerians are also asking, coming from the last administration, you know, where we had over 30 trillion naira that, you know, were owing more or less. Part of the problems we're suffering today is you know, all of that money, people said we're printing money. I think it was the former governor of Edo State, Governor Paseki, who said we were printing money 2 or 3 years back. And everybody descended on him, those who didn't like, the critics who didn't like what he was saying. But apparently, we're meeting money in terms of ways and means. And the CBN, they didn't do well at all in that regard. Part of what we're suffering today is all of that ways and means that went to over 30 trillion naira. By the time you add the interest on top, you know, flagrantly, you know, breaching the laws of the country because they went beyond the threshold that was required. So that is on the one part. Today, what are Nigerians facing? Economic hardship. They're prepared for this. You know, but I think the argument have been made that the policies initiated by the present administration in terms of the reforms are coming too close and too soon together. Everything happening at the same time. You remove the fuel subsidy, you remove electricity subsidy, you harmonize the foreign exchange. I mean, maybe they should have come one after the other. That's the way I think, because this is just 18 months. And all of these decisions were made within a year. Some of us run business, and I can tell you that the impact of the band aid bills is not funny at all. Usually you are threatened that if you don't pay within 48 hours, they're coming to disconnect your life. And now, businesses are practically struggling to survive. I just gave you the, information on two multinationals. These are multinationals that are doing great numbers in this country. But today, the story is very different. I can imagine how many other businesses that are similarly affected.
That's the irony. I mean, the electricity companies are very efficient when it comes to threatening to disconnect you and disconnecting you. But then we know that when it comes to the charter of service and then fulfilling their part, a different kettle of fish entirely. I'd like you to look to the figures about this GDP, looking at the services sector and how this reported growth is predicated largely on the services sector with the images we see on the screen there. And then you also see the agricultural sector and how it is its contribution there, because that is one area, because government has invested a lot in that particular sector, but are they getting the commensurate response to it? So what is your version, your take of what you've seen now? Because you said you also have there, you relate, you do business, so you can relate to somebody. So talk to us about these things.
Yes, thank you. The services sector contributing over 53%, followed by agriculture. Talking about agriculture, I think we need to do more in that sector. Okay? The whole idea has been to move away from the oil and gas sector into the non-oil sector. And you can see services and agri. Nigeria is the greenest nation in the whole of Africa. And that means a lot. In terms of arable land, we have more than 3% more than any other African country. More in terms of arable land in the whole of Africa. So essentially, Nigeria can become the food basket of Africa, exporting, what I call food brands, not just commodities or generic products, but branded foods to Africa and the rest of the world. And that is one significant way we can earn foreign exchange. It is when you export, you earn foreign exchange. So God has blessed us with a very green environment. When I say greenest nation in Africa, those words are not mine. They're from Aris. Aris was the foremost marketing strategist in the world before he passed on 2 years ago. He and his daughter, Laura, they came to Nigeria at some point to do research on Nigeria to achieve what they call a positioning strategy. And their research showed that Nigeria is the greenest nation in Africa. What do they mean? Green in terms of agriculture and tourism. So if the government can even just focus on agriculture, Nigeria, in terms of cassava, in terms of yam, in terms of cashew nuts, in terms of sesame seeds, we rank amongst the top countries in the world. So if we can focus on this, crops, cash crops, food crops, and develop what I call global food brands and export them, you see, agriculture will even overtake the services stuff in time. But we have to have a sustained plan, an economic growth plan, for the agri sector. Now, you can see the oil sector is showing red at 5.57%. Industries. Now, the industries, to remember, manufacturers in Nigeria complained recently too that because of the harsh economic operating environment, most of their warehouses are full. And the first 6 months of this year, where they valued those stocks in the products in the warehouses was over over $1 billion. So I think we need to come back together as a people, not just the government alone, and begin to find a way out of this, what I call the challenges we are facing. There are also opportunities, mind you. And I think what the government should focus on mainly at this time is to prioritize 3 key areas. One is agriculture and food security. Okay? 2, they should look at infrastructure, the development of infrastructure, roads, bridges, and of course, the energy sector. You can imagine the national grid has collapsed 11 times this year, even with the high energy bills that we are paying. And nobody takes responsibility. Every day, I'm experiencing more than 15 hours of light. I'm on generator right now. Chamberlain, I'm talking to you. Every day, we're supposed to have a minimum of 20 hours of power supply, but we don't get it. And that they never fail to produce their bills, and the bills have gone up by more than 4 times. So if we look at development of infrastructure, that will help. The third one is very important as well, is development of human capital. With government looking at health, looking at education, because those are the 2 key areas that will drive human capital and development of this country. So let them look at those 3 key areas: agriculture, food security. No matter the challenges we're having in our farms, just every problem has a solution. We must use technology in spite of limited finance. The Bank of Agric is there. And I think we should look at, as I said, infrastructure. Now we are borrowing $2.2 billion, which was approved just a few days back by the Senate. And we're told that it is for the development of infrastructure. That's fine. Each time I go through the Third Mainland Bridge, Chamberlain, at night, even during the day, and I ask myself this question: it's so beautiful at night with all the street lights. Of course, those are solar lamps. And I ask myself, why can't every part of Nigeria be like this, with beautiful roads and street lights? Every part of this country. But you and I know that the roads too are a major problem. Bad roads from Lagos to Shagamu is fine, for example. But between Shagamu and Ijebu, I don't know why the road has not been fixed. I went to Ibadan recently. I must confess that road is very beautiful. So the question is, why can't every part of Nigeria have such beautiful roads? It's not impossible. But we know what the challenges have been: massive corruption, over invoicing, and dubious inflation of these contracts. Otherwise, these roads are very possible. I want every road in Nigeria to be like what we have, on the top bridge. I must give credit to the Minister of Works, Engineer David Mahi, for an excellent job, on the Third Mainland Bridge that was rehabilitated not too long ago.
I want to be able to get your thoughts on the President's statement following the release of these figures by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. This statement by Mr. Sunday Dare, and I want to read a part of it for you if you don't mind. President Tinubu said, and I'm quoting, "I am excited by the latest report from the National Bureau of Statistics that our economy grew in the 3rd quarter more than last quarter and even beyond projected estimates. While I welcome this development, the latest figure also shows that much work needs to be done. We won't rest until Nigerians feel the positive impacts in their pockets and experience a better living standard. My administration remains committed to the welfare of our people." There's a promise of a repositioning of our economy by before the middle of 2025. What do you make of the President's policies so far and these promises? Are they working, these policies?
You can ask Nigerians whether these policies are working. But to be very honest, I mean, 3.4, some people are saying, oh, data, they will trust government with this data, they should trust the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. But, I mean, they cannot be lying to us. If we have to celebrate this growth, Nigeria, ideally, we should be looking at double-digit growth right now. We used to be the largest economy in Africa, but, we have dropped. But I'm very certain that we'll regain that top spot in Africa. God has blessed this country in so many ways. And we should just look beyond the oil sector, where there has been so much corruption over the years. And to be honest, if Mr. President wants to make Nigerians happy, as he's celebrating 3.4% GDP growth in the 3rd quarter, they should do something about NNPC Limited. I'm going to get to you about
NNPC. I'm going to get to you about NNPC because I read your article.
Okay.
I read your article about the NNPC. In fact, the article is it's titled "The Elephant in the Room." We'll address the elephant in a bit.
Okay.
But my thing is the reason why I want to be able to talk about the president and his promises to the Nigerian people is this. He makes it. He always says, and I'm seeing it from Sunday Diary's statements, I'm seeing it from other statements as well, as though we need some time. We should just be a little bit patient. Oh, it's going to get there. You just need to hold on a little bit for me, Nigerians. I understand what you're going through. I just need some time. We're working on it. Is this the situation in your mind?
Of course, I agree with that position. Tough times don't last. And only tough people do. Those are not my words, but let us just keep hope alive. We cannot all jackpot. We cannot all leave Nigeria, okay? We have to be here to serve this economy. And it's not only the government. We also have responsibilities. These are very uncertain times. There's so much uncertainty. You cannot plan. Okay? I did two leadership theories in 1987. That is Warren Bennett and Botjanos. In 1987, they coined the acronym VUCA, to explain the kind of situation we are in today. And not Nigeria, by the way. Talking about volatility, that is V. U is uncertainty. Okay. C is complexity. And the last word there is ambiguity. So when there's so much uncertainty, you can't plan. By the time the government came in last year, we were already in a major crisis, economic crisis. All right. But Nigerians don't trust politicians. That is the truth. I have done articles too, moving the focus away from the federal government to the state governors. That if every state can develop using their comparative advantages, we will not be in this situation. Because there will be an aggregation of all of the effort that they're doing. Look at destination marketing. The Calabar Carnival, it used to be a major tourism effort. I know every December people troop to Calabar. No, the hotels are fully booked. The economy is growing. If homes are used, people now have to rent homes like the Airbnb model. Okay? So what is happening today is that technology too is disrupting a lot of things, changing the business model. Okay? Airbnb. Look at the Uber model, hailing taxi. These are technology driven. So we need to embrace technology as much as possible in trying to solve most of our problems. And you don't want to know how much Uber is doing every year. Bolt is there too. So talking about the states, they should focus on destination marketing. What can attract people? We say the economy is bad. I agree it is very bad. It's also affecting me. But each time I get to the airport and I want to fly, the other day I was flying from Port Harcourt to Lagos from the All Nigeria Editors Conference. The plane was full. Okay? And the tickets are not cheap. When you're also flying abroad or coming into Nigeria, you see that the aircraft are full. And you ask yourself, what's going on here? So again, you talked about paradox earlier. How do we explain this paradox? That the economy is hard on one hand, things are tight, but you go to the airport, the aircrafts are full. I mean, I'm not making this up. I flew recently from Port Harcourt to Lagos, and there was no seat on that flight. It was a big aircraft, an Airbus. So from Akwa Ibom State. Let me put it that way. I'm not promoting them. I mean, that's like free advice. But having said that, we're talking about Akwa Ibom State. I think it's another state most states should copy as a model, just like Lagos State, in terms of growth and development of the local economy. If you go to Akwa Ibom State, there's so much you can talk about. And I'm going to actually also write about them very soon.
I'll be looking forward to that article, but I want to be able to get you on the NNPC, Mr. Braimah. Just a moment. I read your article on the NNPC. You described the NNPC as the elephant in the room. And you were talking about how many staff NNPC have and, why all of this, all these expenditure, the turnaround maintenance money, and all of this is happening while those refineries are not working. And it was a very interesting article that was released by you. But we do have some updates. Because one of the things that you talked about in that article is the fact that these refineries are not working despite all this maintenance money and all of those things that are being spent on over 7,000 staff members. This statement here from Femi Shone says that the Port Harcourt refinery has started working. Starting production, says the trucks will start loading. Truck loading will commence today. He says, I'm pleased to announce that the Port Harcourt refinery has commenced crude oil processing today. We deeply appreciate the patience of all Nigerians and the unwavering support of the president despite challenges. And he goes on to talk about the commitment of the NNPCL. All right, so what do you make of this statement by Mr. Shone? Because, that time I read your article, you had criticized him for a few things that he had said. But this promise of the Port Harcourt refinery and it actually commencing truck loading today, what do you make of this? Is this part of the policies of the president working? Are things about to get much better?
when things are good, as I just said, we should celebrate them. It's a good milestone, a great milestone. I wrote that article and I criticized NNPC, as a major drain on our economy. 4 major refineries, and they're not producing anything, not even a drop of petrol. In how many years? In 80 years. I think that is scandalous. So if the news today is that the Port Harcourt refinery is now working at 60% capacity, I think it's good news. And we should also talk about it. We should celebrate it. So that people will stop saying Dangote is a monopoly. You can't be saying Dangote is a monopoly when you have 4 state-owned refineries that are not working. Not just because they cannot work, because some people just want to sabotage, the economy. Because when you sabotage the refineries, you're sabotaging the economy. When an economy where oil is the mainstay. So let us celebrate this, and I say congratulations to NNPC, and that they can now start loading, petroleum products from the Port Harcourt refinery, which has taken a long time in coming. And let them also be very honest about how much we have spent. That was about $1.5 billion. I think that was in 2021. And by today, they should let us know how much Chile we have spent. But I hear it's over $2 billion now on just that refinery. So, you see, transparency and honesty is what we're all looking for. The government, Nigerians are ready to support this government and any government. But the problem is the trust deficit. Nigerians don't trust they don't trust what they say, they don't trust what they do. Nigerians are very honest, patient people. They're ready to support any government. What they're expecting is transparency and honesty and say things as they're supposed to be.
So what do you expect? Because they say they're also working tirelessly, in their words, to ensure that Warri Refinery also comes back on stream. So with this one, they say they're going to send us images and footages of the refinery, the truck loading process. Those visuals will be coming up soon during the day, according to what they put out there. So what do you expect in terms of its impact on the production or perhaps availability of the products, the pricing of the products, and all of that?
Let them compete. Dangote refineries. There are actually other, smaller refineries in this country.
Modular refineries,
not much is known about. Yeah, we have 4 or 5 of them. I thought we have 2 in Edo State. So let us have these refineries work. But yesterday I was also reading about plans of the government to privatize this same refinery.
Yeah, they said they will.
I have not been able to confirm. Yes. So, but I think ultimately that should be where we should end up. Let us privatize these refineries. It is very clear that these refineries have refused to work over this year. Maybe the effort is being made now because of the Dangote refinery, which is a good thing, and that is what the beauty about competition. But if we're still going to be under the NNPC with the current leadership, I have my doubts, and the Nigerian thing will still creep in. People who are so selfish, who want to sort us about their own interests.
No, but if it's privatized, it will be a different ballgame entirely. There are rules. After all, NNPC is a private company now, quoted, so they say they are working with certain international standards. But let me ask you, when this eventually gets on along with the Warri Refinery, do you see any challenge in terms of the crude obligations of the NNPC supplying Dangote Refinery? Because they will equally need to supply Port Harcourt and Warri refineries, because I think statutorily there are allocations to those refineries from crude production.
Yes, that is what the law says. The PIA basically says if our refineries are working, the obligation should be to give them crude. Now, don't forget that we are having challenges in that sector. Most of our crude, we have used them, to securitize some loans that we have taken, from the previous administration. And then that also is one part of the problem. The second part of the problem too is that the Dangote refinery also needs some crude feedstock, from NNPC. Now, but what we can do to solve that problem is to ramp up production. The story now confirmed by NNPC today is that we are now producing 1.8 billion barrels per day. I think that's good news. If we can take it up to 2 million barrels, 2.2 million barrels, that would be very helpful. But you know what? Why this has been a problem? Because of the crude, the theft in that sector. You know, those who are stealing our oil, and it's difficult to understand.
But should we worry?
It's like a festive talk.
Should we still worry about that? Because it was only yesterday the Navy had that presser where they did say their activities, in fact, they were almost thumping their chest, reading out their scorecard, what they've done to ensure that they address crude and pipeline vandalism to the extent that their efforts has contributed largely towards attaining that 1.8 million barrels per day capacity.
Yes, it shows that these are positive signs. I mean, let us give credit, you know, to the government when things are also things are working very well. I mean, moving up to 1.8, I think is a great, you know, piece of news.
Even though we've done more than that before in the past, way more than that.
Yes, we're doing 2.2, and I think we can still get up to 2.2. If they can get up to 1.8, we can do 2.2, and that will really help the feedstock to, you know, these refineries. I mean, we cannot be having oil in Nigeria and we're importing crude oil into Nigeria. I don't think that makes sense. So let us see how we can optimize those what we have, and then give to the local refineries before we think about exporting. And I'm talking about these refineries. If we stop importing petroleum products, you both know we don't need anybody to tell us that we're going to be saving a lot on forex. Money that we're spending to import petroleum products into Nigeria, we will save all of that. And that will also be a huge impact on the economy, because the challenge we're having today, why dollar is selling at 17.50 today, is because we do not have enough dollars coming into this country. If you do not, we practically import everything.
Yeah, but you've not spoken to us about your expectations about the pricing.
Yes. The pricing, see, I feel very sad, very honest, that 10 years ago, I bought the dollar at 155 naira. But today, just yesterday, the dollar was between 750 and 755. I mean, in 10 years,
yeah.
Yes.
You made us excited there just for a moment.
No, let me explain that. In 10 years, the price of the USD moved from 155 naira to 1,750 naira yesterday. That will not make anybody like me to be very happy in just 10 years. Okay? I also recall at a time in this country when the naira was stronger than the dollar. So the question you want to ask yourself is, between that time, talking about 1984 to now, what has happened?
Manufacturing.
Well, yes. They just say mismanagement of the economy is part of the problem. From one administration to the next. And I think it's the mess of all these years. We have borrowed and borrowed and borrowed, and we're still borrowing. How are we going to pay back? We're still borrowing. So, for example, I need money to do some things in our business, but I've refused to go to the bank because I cannot afford to pay 38% on borrowed funds. How am I going to pay it back? So if you borrow money, there's something wrong in borrowing actually, but if you have to have the capacity and the plan to pay back with the interest. So if we are borrowing, it is because the government believes we can pay back. So to go back to the economy over, this last, from 1984 to now, the economy has not been growing. It has been what? Just collapsing and crashing and going down.
You don't expect anything from pricing?
The dollar or petrol?
Petrol. Petrol pricing.
Yeah.
Yes. I read the statement from Dangote 2 days ago that ex-depot price is now 970. I think that's again an incremental progress. With the Port Harcourt refinery loading, and I just hope they manage the process very well, not just because they want to do this for the optics or for the cameras. Let the story be that the refinery is, what they're doing is sustainable and they will compete favorably. That would be nice. It would be good for the economy. We want petrol. Every December, if you recall, we always have experience of queues.
Do you expect them to be lower than Dangote refinery prices?
I think it's going to be competitive, not necessarily lower, because the same operating environment, the indices are not different. So I expect the margins to be very, very small, to be very honest. But let them announce their price. I can tell you that it's not going to be too different. It will be very marginal. Previously, even when NNPC, at filling stations, they were selling a lot lower than other filling stations. But I think by the time you look at all the input costs, the investment that has been made, the price should not be too different from what we have from Dangote. I don't think so. But let them make that announcement. But overall, I have to make the point that things start, but it's not the end of the road. We need to keep hope alive with what we are doing. It is very tough. I can admit that. It's something I'm facing. Every day I are getting numerous requests from people who want to go to the hospital for surgery or who cannot pay house rent. It's a big problem, or school fees, or medical. It's a big problem. But you know what? Let us become very creative, innovative. Look at what is happening, in Nigerian music space, the entertainment space. So much is going on in that sector. What about fintech? And we must agree that technology has enabled most of these things. With technology now, you can stream a lot of music. With technology, you do a lot of transactions, on the different banking platforms. And then the fintechs have also energized the financial services sector. So these are good signs that all is not lost. Let us continue to hold, together. Let us continue to expect the best from the government. The president says he feels our pains. He understands what we're all passing through. And I believe him. But the reforms also need to have a human face, Mr. President.
I think as we wrap up, that's actually where we're going to as we wrap up this conversation. Quite a lot has happened today. The improved GDP, unemployment rate reduction, Port Harcourt Refinery starting to load today. So quite a lot of good news from the side of the government. Well, here we are as a people watching to see if this will impact us directly. Speak to us on that and how the Nigerians should be navigating these great stories that we're hearing from the presidency today.
Time to celebrate these milestones, and please let them have the moment. We should also all have the moment. We're talking about Nigeria. And we do not have any other country to call on. I always say this all the time. Nigeria is the only country we have. Whether it is good or bad, we all have a duty as stakeholders to make this country a better place. We need to join hands with the government. We need to support them as much as we can. And where they are going wrong, we can criticize them as well. I don't believe that we should only spotlight the bad parts. There are challenges and there are opportunities. And I said earlier, one way the government can really address some of these challenges is to focus on 3 areas: agriculture and food security. They should pay more attention to that area. And that I talked about the green economy. There's also the blue economy, so that is also a massive opportunity under the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy. I think there's so much they can do that sector to also generate significant revenue. So if we can focus on the blue economy and the green economy, that will be significant.
Before you go to the second one, you were so optimistic about the marine and blue economy. You must be disappointed now, if I could take the words out of your mouth, because what's going on there?
What I expect the minister and his team to do after 1 year is to give us some level of feedback, some kind of, report. Because I recall that last year there was so much excitement. I even wrote about the creation of the Ministry of Blue Economy or Ocean Affairs. And then 2 days later, the president, lo and behold, created that ministry. See, last year, even Professor Govt, who is reputed to be the founder of the blue economy, here in September last year, and it was hosted by the minister and his team. Where he talked about the potential of that sector, and that within 6 months, he's sure the ministry can create at least 100,000 jobs. He specifically talked about fishing. He talked about using paper conversion from waste, that these are employment opportunities. He talked about maggot farming for poultry and fishing. He called them low-hanging fruit for the ministry. I recall when the minister went to the National Assembly to defend his budget, he talked about port infrastructure development. He talked about modernization of the Apapa and Tinkan ports. He talked about capacity building. He talked about all of the things he would do in that sector. Mr. Honorable Minister, sir, please let us know what is going on in that sector, because I did significant research in the blue economy sector, and it would be nice to have this engagement to know what is happening in that ministry and what you can do. You have a lot of agencies on your ministry that are generating significant revenue. Nigeria Ports Authority, NIMASA, these are two great agencies, and there are others as well. So let us have some kind of feedback after 1 year in that sector, the blue economy. Green economy, as I said earlier, is agriculture, it's tourism. There's so much potential in that area. Remember the Agugu Fishing Festival in Kebbi State? It used to attract a lot of tourists. I talked about Calabar Carnival. A lot of people go to Akwa Ibom today now for conferences because of all the... So it's a beautiful state. It's a model I recommend. States that can stand on their own without going to Abuja every month, to collect revenue allocation. That should be the way we should be thinking. State governors should begin to think. I said there are challenges now because of VUCA.
So,
okay?
Pardon me, but
state governors...
What do you think? What do you think is the challenge? Why is the blue economy not coming up with or missing up with a little bit of your expectations?
Well, I can't until I hear from the ministry. Let them tell us based on the goals they have set, because you must set goals. You're going to be a minister for at least 4 years. I mean, he's still in office. Between September last year and now, we would like to get some kind of feedback, some report about what they have done, because blue economy, there are models we can copy. When I was in your program talking about blue economy, last year, talked about countries that are already using blue economy. I talked about Republic of Ireland. I talked about South Africa. And I talked about, there's a third country, using operationalizing blue economy that we can go and learn from them. And 5 countries have significant potentials. You have Kenya, you have Nigeria, you have Madagascar, you have Somalia. And the 5 countries are South Africa. Let us even learn from these other countries. Even the World Bank, and the UN, they are paying significant attention to the blue economy. Just like we are talking about climate change today. So it's a huge opportunity. I'll expect them to tell us in the press conference, this is what we have achieved in 1 year, in this ministry. And these are the plans for the next, 2 to 3 years. That would be nice. So for now, I can't really say, but can I recall what the minister promised, last year. They even had a team from Denmark visiting, which the ministry also hosted, about the possibilities of the marine and blue economy. So I expect that they're listening, they're watching us. Let them tell us the achievements so far. So that
the minister will be, his office, they'll be screaming when they hear this right now, because
that was stuck with the potential.
They actually put out a lot of their achievements.
What?
They did. I'm going to read some automated revenue collection process. Deployed revenue assurance technologies. They trained 100 seagoing officers, fishing vessel captains, and engineers. I'm not done. Increased the placement of Nigerian seafarers on board vessels. Admitted and trained foreign students at the Maritime Academy of Nigeria. And reduced piracy and maritime terrorism. And those are some of the things that they've listed as the achievements since the minister, Adegboyega Oyetola, came into office. And this is a $296 billion sector. Are these enough? Should they be putting this out as some of the achievements, knowing the promises made and the priorities that they set? And of course, the potential of this industry, like I said, $269 billion.
Actually, the African Union estimates the potential at 300 billion, African Union for in the blue economy in Africa. Globally, it's about $1.5 trillion, with assets of about 24 trillion. The Ocean Panel is a distinguished group of world leaders, focusing on ocean resources and sustainable use of the oceans. About 18 of it was founded in 2018, not too long ago. And there are different world leaders there, including countries like Ghana, Kenya, and even Namibia. Nigeria is not on that panel. I think we should also be there. So that should be a message to the Honorable Minister. This is a strategic initiative to look at ocean resources globally. There are so many countries that are there. You can check oceanpanel.org. All the information is there. So talking about the achievements, well, I think we need a more comprehensive report. That one of the challenges are the ports. The minister talked about modernizing the Apapa and the Tinkan ports, last year when he took office. We'd like to know how much he has done there. To streamline the processing and reduction of fees, enhance efficiency of cargo clearance for both import and export at Nigerian ports. What about the Lekki Deeps port? What is the update on that? Illegal fishing and so many other things, capacity building and training, baseline studies, and data collection in that sector. So there's so much to still talk about in the blue economy. But let us look at the green economy, agriculture and tourism. That is a massive. I've just cited Kebbi State, the Agogo Fishing Festival. I've cited the Calabar Carnival. Every state should look at what they have as a competitive advantage and generate their own revenue. Going to Abuja every month is unhelpful, and that is only how we can begin to measure true growth. When every state is creating value and creating to the GDP of this country.
All right, Mr. Braimah, we'll have to thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. So from the green to the blue economy, even if it's the white-collar jobs, the unemployment rates, they are all in the spotlight. But in the meantime, we're looking to see what comes through from Port Harcourt Refinery. Thank you for your time this morning. All right, so...
Thank you.
Yeah, Business Morning is next.